Hello, and thank you for joining us. I am Luna, the founder of Vegan Bloomers. Connect and inspire and learn is our mission. And today's star guest is the lovely Zehra. So thank you, Zehra, for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Luna, for having me. I'm so excited to have this chit chat today.
You are so welcome. So I just want to apologise to the audience for any coughing or vast amounts of clearing my throat. I am getting over a cold. You might have noticed in my voice. So yeah, let's begin. So tell us where you're based, how old you are, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I am based in Toronto. What can I tell you? I work for an organization called Umano. Our main purpose, I'm the ED, our main purpose is to build more empathy in the world for humans, animals, and the environment. We call it holistic empathy. We've just coined the term.
Amazing.
It's pretty cool. I'm very blessed that gets to be my day-to-day work. We're looking at the neuroscience of empathy and how we can get people to care. Another thing I do is I run a nonprofit organization here in Toronto. Technically it's in a city called Mississauga. It's called Studio 89. It is a fair trade vegan cafe and community space. So that's a load of fun. I sit as a volunteer on the board in the role of president. And I also am working on a documentary called Halalified, which addresses veganism and Islam. The halal label tends to almost give like divine permission to my fellow Muslims. And so I'd like to challenge that concept. And that's me in a nutshell. I've been in the nonprofit sector for a very, very long time.
Wow, sounds awesome, all the things you're doing. What a treat. I look forward to seeing them.
Thank you so much. I will be sure to share.
And how old are you as well? Missed that one.
Oh yes, I am 38. I'm turning 39 in a few months.
Awesome. So tell us about your vegan journey. When did it all begin and what was it that got you there?
Well, I was a wee child when I said to my parents, I don't want to eat animals. And being Pakistani immigrants to Canada, being from the Muslim community, this concept's just a little bit unheard of, not eating animals. It's almost associated with the religion. It's such a cultural norm. And so my parents would, on the surface, respect my wishes, but what they were actually doing was mixing chicken in my lentils in my dal. I know, and I totally understand. They came from a place where they just didn't know, where doctors are like, you got to get protein, and protein comes from animals, and so that misinformation and the lack of access that we enjoy today, which I am so grateful for, certainly influenced their decision. And when I realized that, hey, there's something stringy in my lentils, I still remember distinctly today, just kind of giving up. We would go to family friends' homes, and as a child, I was a shy kid. I'm no longer shy, but I was a shy kid, and everybody would kind of, surround the dining table, and then they would all look at me because I was the vegetarian in the group. And I remember hiding behind my mom while aunts and uncles around the table were like, oh, is Zehra still vegetarian? Is she still not eating meat? And I would hide behind my mom because I didn't want the attention. So when I found, like bits of flesh in my lentils, I was like, I give up. I'll just eat animals until, I'm old enough to make a decision for myself. And I remember distinctly thinking, I just won't eat animals that look like animals. And that's what I did for a long time. I had, the fish fillet at McDonald's, and I had the chicken nuggets, and growing up, and I had, in our community, it's called tandoori chicken, where it's like just like chunks of flesh. And so that's what I ate so that it wouldn't remind me. And I just stayed away from anything with bones and veins that would remind me it was an animal. I stuck to the ground meat more so. And I did that for a long time. Luna, I'm ashamed to say how long I did it for, but it was in my mid-20s that I really found my voice, and I found self-confidence, and I found responses. I started cultivating answers to the questions and the queries that would come in from those surrounding me. And that's when I felt comfortable just saying, okay, I'm vegetarian now. And then it was a bit of a ride to veganism. But it's the best decision I ever made. My parents are very respectful of it now. They're mostly practicing vegetarian now themselves. We're still trying to get rid of like milk from like dairy milk from my dad's morning tea, because he can't seem to find a tea substitute that really fits him. But that's also because I'm not in the same country as him, and haven't been for I don't know how many years. And so it makes it challenging, because otherwise I would take him to the grocery store and like try a bunch of alternatives. And there's so many more alternatives now than we did back when I did take my dad to the grocery store, and we came back with like 4. And my dad was like, oh, none of these work. He finished all of them, but he was like, it does not taste like my tea. So he's just looking for that tea. I think if we can get over the tea hurdle, he's going vegan. So.
I mean, I don't know what it's like myself, but I do know that they have made a milk which is specifically designed for tea.
Yes, that's right.
Maybe you could recommend that to him.
And that's it exactly. And I know that, you know, he gets a bit overwhelmed. He's just so used to I think it's their age a little bit too. They're so used to certain things that they don't know how to distinguish between like the many plant-based options. So sometimes I've sent dad like a couple of pictures and I'm like, see if they have this in your store. And the thing is, I'm in Toronto, he's in the US. So they're very different products. So he's like, my store doesn't have this. And I'm like, okay, send me a picture of what it has. And I can't tell on the pictures what I should recommend. So it's a bit of a disaster. We have to wait.
No.
I can get to him and then we will rectify.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how long have you been vegan for now?
So I started going vegan. For me, it was a journey. I know some people, it's like very like, that's it, I'm going vegan now, and they're vegan. And I have so much tremendous respect for them. My major food group before going vegan was milk, chocolate, and brownies. So it was a little bit harder for me because I don't really like dark chocolate. And I had no chocolate every day. So that was actually the only thing for me. For a very long time, I actually haven't had eggs. I haven't really enjoyed dairy directly. It was always in the byproducts. And so getting rid of the byproducts was a bit of a journey, also because I left the country and I was traveling a lot. So I'd be in places like Prague and Portugal where there were plenty of vegan options, Germany, right? Like so many vegan options. But then I would be also in places like Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, where it was like significantly more limited at that time. This is quite some time back. And so I would make exceptions for, again, dairy byproducts, not direct dairy, like I wouldn't be having milkshakes or anything, but if something had like a little bit of cheese, I'd like pick it off and just eat it. So I don't consider myself, so the journey started back in 2014, 2015, but I would say I didn't go fully vegan until like 2017. And by then we had so many options here in Toronto as well. I was more settled, so it was really easy peasy to make that conversion.
That's awesome. So it's interesting. I think you're the first person I've come across that's said that they struggled with milk chocolate. Like everybody else is cheese. So have you succeeded in finding one that you like, milk chocolate wise?
Oh, to be honest, I feel like you guys have a lot more variety over there in the UK. We have a few, they're good, but every time I go to purchase them, it like kind of hurts a little bit because there's so much more. They're like 4 to 7 times the price of what a regular chocolate is. It just feels like such an indulgence for like a tiny little piece of satisfaction that it ends up not being so satisfactory. It's like, oh, this world needs to be more vegan. So I'm waiting for, I don't like Nestle. I abhor what they do, but I do miss a good Kit Kat. So I'm looking forward to having some of those options available so that we can indulge once in a while. But also as I get older, I want to clean up my diet, eat clean things. So that helps. I'm like, that stuff's not healthy anyway. I don't want milk chocolate. I don't want chocolate. I don't want sugar. Still working on that.
It's hard though, isn't it? Like I've been on a journey for the last year or so to try and transition from going like junk food vegan to whole foods, and it's really hard.
Oh, Luna, you're speaking to my heart right now. This is exactly, I am the biggest junkie there is, and it's really problematic because the food tastes so good. It's so delicious. I want to eat poutine every day and not like quinoa. Right? So I have a lot of work to do in this.
It's funny though, because I do find like when I first was introduced to plant-based food, like proper plant-based food, it was like the really good stuff. So and so that helped me transition over a bit more, because I was like, oh my gosh, because I thought that it was going to be not very good. And it was so amazing. But even though actually logically I know that whole foods actually taste better than any junk food, like I still can't do it, but I just got some kind of block because I can't bother to cook it. It's my thing.
I understand you 100%. I would rather, I go and buy all this like fancy salad stuff, and then I'm like, I'd rather eat chips. And then I get the air fryer and I'm like, I'm going to make the crispiest potatoes in here. If they don't turn out crispy, I eat more chips. Like it's a vicious cycle. The abundance. Yeah.
Chips is my weakness too.
Yes, big time. And just the abundance in like junk food, like vegan foods now is so tremendous that, and for me here in Toronto, the accessibility is so easy. I appreciate that. In so many parts of the world, they still don't have that accessibility. I think we're often listed as one of the top 10 cities for vegans because there's just every type of vegan cuisine. It's pretty incredible.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to hit up Toronto when I go visit Canada one day. I've heard so many good things. It's awesome.
Wow, I can't wait to host you. It'll be such a party anytime.
Thanks. Yeah. I look forward to it. So when you did finally go vegan, how did your friends and like colleagues and everybody else in your life kind of react to that?
They were okay. It was a long time coming. And because it was a bit of a journey, I had already started speaking about the problematic nature of dairy, the problematic nature of cheese. Cheese comes up a lot when you're around people. They do like, cheese platters, or they put cheese in things. I started speaking to them about the egg industry. And so I think they saw it coming. And as I started with, I'm trying to avoid for this reason. And so it helped that when I was finally like, okay, there's no more, I don't do any more of this. I'm not cheating anymore, right? On my ethics or myself. That was, I think, an easy shift for them to process, because number one, being vegetarian in the Muslim community is unique enough. And then going vegan, because there was a bit of a lead up to it, they were like, okay. I'll never know what they were thinking on the inside.
So they kind of almost transitioned with you because they followed your journey, so they're expecting it.
Yes. I did hear some comments about, oh, just be Muslim and eat some meat today. Or comments like, oh, veganism is a cult. So I did have to contend with that a little bit. And at first I would be stunned with the comments. They were said as jokes, right? So it would be, I would just be silent because I also didn't know how to respond in a way that didn't come across as rude, because I took it so offensively, frankly. So anything I would say back would challenge their thinking. So I would say, well, I actually think it's more Muslim to not eat meat. Like, that's a very, serious and a big assertion in a setting where everybody's kind of doing their thing. And so I would just be silent in the face of these comments. I remember being out with a group of friends, and one girl said to the other, she said, "Oh, I didn't want to come here. Like, I don't eat grass, I don't." And so I remember that really hurt my feelings, and I was like, what? Like, it's not, you're literally at a vegan restaurant with a ton of different options that are not grass. Like, it's just, the joke doesn't even make sense, right? It's not even grounded in ignorance, right? It's just silly at this point. And so I do remember feeling hurt and then being silenced by the shock of that comment, like not being able to find my voice and say something back. And over the years, I've found that confidence. I've found the responses. I now know how to kind of like smile and say it back as a joke instead of being confrontational or like getting serious, because that's not what they're intending. To them, it might be lighthearted. To me, it's pretty serious. It's pretty significant, and the impact is very significant.
Yeah, of course. So how did you find that confidence to be able to do that?
I think, it's getting shot down a handful of times, and being in that uncomfortable position where I'd be shocked into silence and then saying, "Oh, I could have said this," right? And it's like, it's so famous, right? Like, everybody thinks of it in the shower later, like, I should have said this. So that's where I collected some of my remarks back from. And I'd say that following other vegan activists and listening to how they respond. So there's some wonderful people out there like Joey Carbstrong and Earthling Ed, who respond so articulately and kindly to people, and sometimes in a challenging way too. Like, Joey Carbstrong's a little bit more direct. Earthling Ed's like really gentle, but still very firm and polite. And so I respect that so much that I started trying to learn from them and trying to collect responses when I saw them, coming back with comments that just were so astoundingly astute. And I also took a course called the Animal Justice Academy. So Animal Justice is a charity here in Toronto, in Canada. They're an animal rights organization, a group of lawyers, so brilliant. And they did a course online that doesn't just apply to Canada. They had, I think, thousands of people sign up from all over the world, like vegans sign up from all over the world. And this course is like, I think it's a 6-week course, and it breaks down like different vegan themes and topics per week. And there's also some live events that happened when they first launched that are in there with panel discussions. And they get into the science and the data, but they also get into some of the responses of, to get into like language, for example, how specious language can be problematic. And so I learned so much. I thought I knew things as a vegan activist. I was like, oh, I got this. I know my things. And then I took this course and it blew my mind. In fact, over the holidays, I want to take it again because I learned so much that I was able to articulate, data really quickly when people are like, no. I say, well, it takes 18 times more land to feed a meat eater than a vegan. And, just because of climate change, we should really, this is very significant. Don't you agree? And people are like, oh, yes, it is. so this course, I highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Mm-hmm. I think I'm wondering whether, because I recently found a course because I did this workshop, which was talking about making peace between like vegans and non-vegans, and how carnism itself is the problem rather than the fact that people eat meat. It's not the person's fault, it's just the whole, the psychology of carnism. And so, and they mentioned a course, and I'm wondering whether it's the same because it does ring a bell. I had to look at it and it looked, yeah.
And this language that you're using right now reminds me of, is it Dr. Melanie Joy?
Yes,
Her,
that's
yes,
that's it. Yes, that's who it was.
yes. I've
Yeah,
learned great things from her too. She's also part of this course. So I'm not sure if it's the same course or a different course.
it
She
could
speaks
be.
at this class.
Yeah, it
Yes.
could be, because it does ring a bell, and like that was only a few days ago that I did that, and I did take a brief look at it, and yeah, it just reminded me of it. So it probably is.
Brilliant. Yes.
Amazing. So going back to food, what
Mhm.
is something that you miss the most, if anything, that you haven't managed to find yet?
Milk chocolate. That's it.
Okay.
Everything else is covered. It's and it's like affordable, accessible milk chocolate. Like not having to
Okay.
drive, 30 minutes that way to like access a chocolate bar. Yeah, milk chocolate is definitely an area where I've struggled a bit, but I did find something called Prevel. I don't know if you're familiar with Prevel spread. It's like an Italian, I'm pretty sure it's made in Italy and sold here. It's a chocolate hazelnut spread that, in my opinion, is better than what I remember Nutella tasting like way
Okay.
better, because it's way more like hazelnutty, and it's a very milky chocolate hazelnutty. Oh, it's so delicious.
That
So,
sounds really nice. I bet I
oh,
can't get it in my country.
no, you let me know. I'll send one over. But the trouble is, we don't have any stock right now. So we've been waiting for
Oh
Carvel.
no.
Yeah, there's like a COVID delay happening, and so we can't access it either. It's so sad.
Oh, I did find once in, I don't know whether you've got this in Toronto, Lidl. Have you got this store?
Oh,
No. Well, they it's the German store originally, and they had this hazelnut chocolate spread, and it was like, it was divine, and it reminded me of Nutella but better. So
oh,
I wonder whether it's the same as your stuff that you mentioned.
I do wonder. Yes, very
But
possible.
I haven't seen it since I found it, so that often tends to happen. I find something amazing and then it's gone. Oh well, at least I got to have it once. So
Exactly. Hang on to that memory.
yes,
And also, we don't want that sugar anyway. It's not good for us.
no,
So Luna, am I allowed to ask you questions too, or not?
you can if you like.
Let's know more about your journey, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
So I started my journey 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, almost. I was vegetarian first. Well, I was pescatarian first, actually, when I was 11. It took me about 2 years to transition to vegetarianism. I was 11 when I first started my journey, and then I sadly, and I'm not proud to say this, when I was 18, I went backwards and ate meat again, but only for about a year or so, and then I went back and I made a vow to never do it again, which I stuck to. I'm like you, 100% agree with like Nestle. Like, I don't support Nestle like at all, because I think they're a disgusting company, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I've always kind of like, my friends would say this about me too when I was vegetarian. They would say that I'm vegetarian with a vegan heart, because even when I still consume dairy, like I was very strict in the sense of like, I wouldn't touch leather, I wouldn't touch stuff that I knew had been tested on animals. I was really strict. But back then I actually had no idea what went on in the dairy industry until it wasn't until 2019, I think, that I actually started to understand. I lived in America for like a year and a half, and I nearly went vegan there, but because I didn't have the support, I didn't. And that's where it was introduced to decent whole food, plant-based food. And then when I came back, I met this lady who was amazing. She's a very close friend of mine. I've actually interviewed her before, Sherry, her name is. She had a Veganuary workshop, which was like one session, like for a week, one session a week for 4 weeks straight. And she basically showed me what really went on. And in my head, I was already like, yeah, I want to be vegan, but I wasn't quite there yet. I did the whole like, one day I went vegan and then the rest not, because I did struggle to go over. But as soon as I'd found out what actually went on, it was like easy to make that transition, because I was like, I just ethically, I just can't do it anymore. So yeah, that's my journey in a nutshell. Pretty much.
Oh,
And
incredible.
then, yeah,
And what's the one food that you miss the most?
profiteroles,
Oh,
like
yes.
100%. It used to be Kinder Buenos, but they finally made one, and it
Oh,
tastes basically exactly the same. It's made by a company called Love Raw or something.
yes. You know, a friend of mine from London sent me those. She
Oh,
mailed me
okay.
a little packet here in Toronto. It was the nicest thing anyone's ever done in my life is
Oh,
send me vegan treats from London. I was just so floored. So they do taste exactly like the
yeah,
Kinder chocolate.
yeah.
Indistinguishable. Incredible.
And I was really blown away because when I first had them,
Mhm.
they were in my local corner shop, which is the last place I would have ever imagined something like that to be. They were just on the desk. I was like, what the hell? I was like, this is surreal. And then my friend messaged me like a few weeks later and was like, oh, I've just found this thing that you'll love. And I was like, oh, what is it? She's like, it's like Kinder Bueno. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I literally just found this in the store the other day.
This is why we can't be Whole Foods plant-based. This is
I know. Well, I'm such a foodie as well, and I'm like a total child. Whenever I go shopping, like this is probably the thing. Like
Mhm.
I have to try everything. Like
Yes,
I'm
me
I'm
too.
totally the opposite to what I used to be younger. When I was younger, I was
Mhm.
such a fussy eater. But this
Yeah.
is another fun part of my journey. I
Okay.
was a vegetarian that hated vegetables. Like I did not like vegetables at all,
Same.
and people used to mock me all the time
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
I like vegetables now. Like there's not a lot I don't like anymore. But yeah, I'm totally like a little kid in a candy store. Whenever I go anywhere, I see something vegan that I've not eaten before,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah,
I'm the same
I
way.
need that.
Yeah. I'm the exact same way. My favorite vegetable as a vegetarian and also as a vegan was like fries. I was like potatoes that are deep fried is my favorite vegetable. Very problematic.
That's hilarious. Yep, same. I like there was a period of my life where I pretty much just lived off frozen potatoes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel you.
Potatoes are so good. Oh my goodness.
Yep, they are.
Oh,
So
hilarious.
how would you say that veganism has impacted your life?
Luna, that's such a good question. Actually, I was going to ask you, did you have vegan friends when you went vegan? Like locally?
So I did,
Mhm.
and it's what pushed me actually to make that next step,
Yeah.
because I have a friend he was my first person that I interviewed actually.
Mhm.
His name's Andy.
Mhm.
He was one. So when I first became vegetarian,
Mhm.
loads of my friends decided to do it too, like
Mhm.
just to see what it was all about. And I think because I was quite outspoken about stuff, and
Yeah.
he was one of these people that went vegetarian alongside me, and
Mhm.
he ended up going vegan,
Wow.
and I was so blown away because he was a vegetarian, but
Mhm.
he still ate fish, like because he had prawn crackers, and it was
Wow.
the one thing he was like, no, like it doesn't count. It's not real fish in there. Like he was always very adamant about this. This is not spoken about in the interview, of course. But, he went vegan, and
Mhm.
I suddenly thought, if he can go vegan,
Mhm.
like after being so adamant, like about eating prawn crackers, which
Mhm.
were not vegetarian, then I can do it too. Because for me, support was like it's part one of the reasons actually why I've created Vegan Bloomers, because me myself, I didn't have support like at all
Mhm.
growing up. My family were totally not for me being vegetarian, like they didn't understand. Um, and I didn't have anyone, like I didn't know anybody.
Mhm.
So when I came back from America, suddenly it was like the world went vegan with me almost. So
Amazing.
I kind of like became vegan at the right time. And then when I became vegan and was like open about it, I kept meeting vegan people. So like through my journey, I've met a lot of vegan people, and I do have quite a few vegan friends now.
Incredible.
So yeah,
Incredible.
I got lucky.
Yes, yes. I had a very similar experience in that for me, it was a very lonely journey. I knew some, but I knew very few actually, but it wasn't, I didn't have close relationships with them. All my close friends were very much not vegan. And so it was, I remember like coming back from, friends' parties or family gatherings. And I would say to my husband, I'd say, oh, I feel so lonely. Like I was really in touch with how sad I was at being the only one and not being able to get people to listen to why it's so essential and how it's so easy and all of the reasons why. Oh my gosh, they're overwhelming, right? So it was, and it was so simple to me. Like why when there's an option to be not cruel, once I totally understand that we all operated in a bubble of ignorance. And of course animal agriculture does a really good job of hiding the reality of what happens to animals, right? Or even the humans, the high PTSD rate that exists with slaughterhouse workers. It's not something we address. It's just it's big business, and that's it. So once we know, and once the investigations are in front of us and we can see what's happening, then how can we not be compelled to do something and take a position? And so I was just astounded. And I did in fact feel really, really sad and alone for a while. And then my husband went vegan to support me. And he didn't do it so much for the animals and the environment. He actually did his health research, and he did it for health first. He of course cares about animals and the environment very much, but his the pivotal point for him was definitely when he read about the damage eggs cause and what dairy does to our body. That's when he said, oh, I used to drink super big glasses of milk growing up, and I ate eggs every morning growing up. And so he made that decision for health, but also truthfully to support me in my emotional because
Oh, that's so sweet.
I was a mess. But now I also have some vegan friends, and I've met some wonderful people online and joined a bunch of vegan groups, and that really, really does help. It really does.
Yeah, it does. I'm so thankful for the internet for that, because there's so many of us, but we're often separate from each other. But because we've got the internet, it means that we can connect, all around the world, and unite and not be alone, because we're not alone in it, and we don't have to feel lonely, because there's a lot of us, and we are forever growing.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
So I'm curious about your religious side. Like, so what is it that, because you mentioned that you feel that it's more Muslim to be vegan, like, can you talk us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I absolutely can. So Muslims will often say, it says in the Quran, in the Holy Quran, that we can eat animals. And it does. It says you can eat animals, but it doesn't say you should eat animals or you have to eat animals. This religion came down 1400 years ago, Prophet Muhammad being the last prophet, right, for Muslims. So Prophet Muhammad lived in, peace be upon him, lived in the desert. There were very few options for survival. He did eat animals and have animal byproduct, but in fact, there are so many rules around the consumption of animals that it makes eating animals today unacceptable in the religion. And so I've studied this in great depth. There is a lot in the Holy Quran about the environment and taking care of the environment. There is a very clear paragraph, or what we call ayah in the Quran, that speaks to how animals are made in communities just like us. In the religion, we as Muslims, there are two things we really look to for divine direction, if you will. One is the Holy Quran, and second is called the Sunnah. So these are what has been established to be Prophet Muhammad's daily activities, what he did, how he did things, what he said, how he advised. And there are big books that have been compiled of what is considered authentic hadith. These are called hadith. And so we look to them for direction and wisdom as well. And there are so many about animals. Animals are also mentioned in the Quran many times. And the level of care and compassion that is essential in our religion is tremendous. I spoke at an event a few weeks back called Vejo Forum. It's a vegan organization based out of Sweden. And they did a whole panel on veganism in different religions. So there was somebody who represented Christianity, there was somebody speaking about Judaism, and there was Buddhism and Hinduism. And what was extraordinary was the Christian person who spoke before me and the Jewish person who spoke after me, all three of us were 100% aligned. And look at all of these paragraphs or instructions that have come in the religion about compassion for animals and care for animals. So a couple of examples really quickly are Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had said on numerous occasions in defense of animals, a variety of things. So for example, he saw a camel that was emaciated. And as he walked past, he said, fear God in these, like fear Allah in these beasts that cannot speak. He saw a sparrow flying around like distraught. And he said, who has upset this sparrow? Beware, right? And so I don't remember the exact thing, I'd have to look it up, but there are so many. There's one that says hurting an animal is the same as hurting a human being. That is huge. Mm-hmm. That is utterly huge. And in the religion, it is replete with stories that one act of cruelty towards an animal by a pious Muslim, somebody who prays, fasts, does all that they're supposed to do as a pious Muslim. As a pious Muslim, if you conduct one act of cruelty against an animal, you are destined for hellfire. And there are many stories of somebody who's not a pious Muslim, who's not even Muslim, who has conducted themselves in a way where they've given one act of charity or act of kindness towards an animal, and they are destined to heaven. And so in the religion, we're constantly told that nothing guarantees, heaven and hell. It's not collecting heaven points, right? Like, I did this good, I collected these many points. It's not like a game. It really, truly is how you conduct yourself, and really even then, who knows, right? So you really do have to work hard to be the best version of yourself. Halal companies here, at least in Canada, are consistently in the news for animal cruelty. They do halal animals, they also do non-halal animals. And there's lots of footage of the slaughterhouse workers beating the animals, slamming the animals, breaking chickens' wings, just doing horrible, horrendous things. And it's more affordable for them to pay the fines because nobody goes to jail for animal cruelty, right? So they pay the fines and they carry on with business because that business is so lucrative. And the vast majority of Muslims that I know choose to believe, and many of them that I now know personally, know that this is the cruelty that's taking place in halal slaughterhouses. But for them, oftentimes they'll say, but it's halal. It's the same as, but it's kosher. It's allowed. The end. What's interesting is that in the Quran, there is also, there at that time, 1400 years ago, slavery existed. So it doesn't say in the Quran that you should stop having slaves. At the time, men married multiple women. It was very normal for men to be with many, many women. And the Quran said, you can now be with 4, up to 4, if you can treat them equally. And that negates itself, right? How can any person treat any group of people equally? Just, it's not really possible. So what's interesting about Islam, much like some of these other religions, is that it advises, it showcases compassion and care. So for example, Prophet Muhammad used to send his companions to the human markets to buy slaves and then set them free. The slaves that were given to him, he set them free, right? So they became servants instead of slaves. In Arabic, when we speak about it, I'm not Arabic, I'm Pakistani, so I speak Urdu. But when we're taught the lessons from the stories of Islam, we're told that look how great and wonderful our Prophet, peace be upon him, was. Look how compassionate he was. Look how soft he was. He was known to smile at trees, at ants, right? Like he was always, so these wonderful, beautiful stories, we romanticize them and regale them to the past instead of practicing them in our day-to-day today. And I find that very problematic. And I also lay full responsibility with the Muslim leadership. There are some incredible leaders who preach. In fact, there's a vegan vegan imam in Germany. He's Turkish, and he promotes veganism and feminism. And he says, oh, these are labels people place upon me, but I take them on happily. So he's definitely an outlier. And there are definitely good people like that out there. But generally speaking, the Muslim leadership, much like a lot of different religions, leadership is driven by capitalism, is driven by money, is driven by, collect heaven points, do this, this, and this, and you're good to go, right? It's not critical thinking. It's not your day-to-day actions. The concept of fair trade, paying people well. This is a basic Islamic concept, but you won't find it in business where Muslims are operating. And again, because these virtues have been regaled to the past.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
My
I think it's interesting, like, yeah, I'd quite like to, I'm gonna have to look up this thing that you said that you spoke up, because that sounds really cool. The last documentary I watched about veganism actually did touch on religion and how, a lot of it, like you said, is so hot on compassion. And that actually there's a lot of things that have been hidden, according to this documentary, that people don't want people to know about because of capitalism and all this other stuff. So yeah, it's really interesting. But I appreciate that I've got to meet somebody that's, of a religious background that's also vegan, because I think it's, it's so important that yeah, you're speaking out. So yeah, I appreciate what you're doing as well. Like as a Muslim, I think it's amazing that you're advocating for veganism as well for your religion.
It's definitely a tough, sometimes in the vegan groups, I see people like post something and they're like, look at this halal company, and oh, this is so bananas. And then I'm like, I know it is, right? And it's, since 9/11, Muslims have been really, it's been a very different experience being Muslim since then. It was what a tragedy, and so many tragedies that have ensued since. And so to kind of balance these identities has always been very interesting as well. Part of when I was really, really lonely as a vegan, I went on Facebook and looked for Muslim vegans. And I also, as I was sharing with you, I needed to collect information so I could respond to when people would, come at me. They'd be like, what about Prophet Ibrahim? And this is a story that also like crosses all the 3 major monotheistic religions, right? What about Prophet Ibrahim and the sacrifice of the goat or the ram? And so I had to find like legitimate answers, and not ones that seemed like I'm just making up this answer to suit my vegan agenda, right? Like it had to make sense from a religious point of view. And so I found this wonderful website called veganmuslims.com. and this group on Facebook called the Vegan Muslim Community. And the person who moderates that group runs another page called the Vegan Muslim Initiative, which is the veganmuslims.com website, just full of like really analyzing the religion and breaking things down and looking at animals and environment from a religious lens, and breaking down all these misconceptions that have been spread throughout the community over the years. And it really, really was the tipping point for me. This is where I really started finding my confidence, because now I had the answers I didn't have previously.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my husband just came home from the gym. I don't know if you heard that door open, but
I had a squeak.
we're in a small apartment here in Toronto, but you know, I can put on my headphones at any point if I need to. Let me know.
That's fine. So let's talk about activism. So I'm assuming you know, obviously, have been a part of activism. So tell us about your activist journey.
So my activism happens in the nonprofit way. I tend to, you know, work on. I really want to reach many people, and so working on Halalified. I've got about 45 vegan Muslims who are willing to be in the documentary. COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
They're all over the world. They're in Turkey and Palestine and Morocco and Pakistan and villages, and you know, like they're everywhere. They're in the US, they're everywhere, and they're all spread out. We've got vegan, we've got plant-based doctors, we've got bodybuilders in Singapore, we've got restaurateurs and food bloggers, and you know, the whole gamut. Like the documentary really goes into animal rights, environment, social justice, food equity, poverty, that bit, and then health and food. So it's kind of full picture on like knowing all the reasons to go vegan. There are other, you know, more detailed documentaries like Game Changers or Cowspiracy that get into the finer details of each segment, if you will. But my decision was to sort of address all the objections that come to vegans, but also to vegan Muslims. So there's your traditional, where do you get your protein? What about your B12? How about calcium? And then there's your Prophet Muhammad ate meat. It's in the Quran that we're allowed to eat meat, but the halal label and blah, 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 right? So how do I address the full, you know, array of concerns and objections that my fellow Muslims have when I reach out to them? So the way I feel I can reach the most people is through Halalified. And one of the journeys I'm going on is actually finding more than one vegan imam to be in the documentary. So I've got this wonderful vegan imam who's in Germany, but I need more religious authority that is willing to be in the documentary. And part of that is then convincing religious authority. So I have who's done this really well is people in Israel. And they've got in the Jewish community, they've got quite a momentum going with how they've lobbied religious leadership towards veganism. And I think that's made a huge difference in general society over there. So what I'm doing this coming week is connecting with a couple of people who operate in the vegan and Jewish space, so that I can learn best practices on how to lobby and advocate with the Islamic leaders. I've had a few meetings, but so they make me so uncomfortable, and I have the answers. And at the end of those meetings, you know, the religious leaders, 2 or 3 of them have said to me, "Oh, well, Sister Zehra, you make a really good point. You've given me a lot to think about." Or that was a really great lecture, right? Like they admit to all of this, you know, disconnect in the religion and our treatment today and our consumption habits today. But how do I push them towards adopting the vegan lifestyle and then preaching the vegan lifestyle? It's a very terrifying concept for many of them, because they will lose followers. It's so much easier to go with the flow, right? And now in today's day and age, with social media being what it is, I think many are scared to go down that path. So after that first meeting or second meeting, there hasn't been much follow-up. So I'm trying to learn what the best practices are. I'm hoping to recruit a few people from the Muslim community to help navigate this space and do a little bit of advocacy there. And I'm working on the Halalified documentary, trying to figure out how do I film it without traveling, or do I simply wait until I can travel? Because it is a lot of filming, and it's a little bit confounding how to manage it during this COVID situation that we have. And I'm thinking we might have to direct from abroad, hire crews over there. I've got a few volunteers who are willing to help me do this, a few producers. So it's definitely taking way longer than I anticipated to make Halalified, but we'll get there. And in the meantime, we're, with Umano and so with Studio 89, the nonprofit cafe I run here, it's also very humans, animals, environment, and raising awareness about humans, animals, environment issue, recognizing the interconnectedness and interdependency of the well-being, for the well-being of all three. However, it's a very geographically isolated sort of situation. It's in the city of Mississauga. It's for the community that's going to use the space or be able to access the products from the space. With Umano, it's the whole concept's been heightened because Umano is looking at how do we support organizations that care about the well-being of humans, animals, and the environment. And we're asking animal rights organizations to also focus on human rights and the environment and really think full picture. We're also asking human-centered organizations to recognize that the true well-being of humans is dependent on the environment and animals, and our consumption of animals plays a key role there. But it's not just consumption, it is also how we use animals and testing and all sorts of things. And so my activism right now is really happening to work like from these more large scale projects. So I'm the person in the background who's kind of, working with nonprofits globally and saying, these are the reasons why holistic empathy matters. Here's the data, here's the science, here's how you can incorporate holistic empathy building in your projects. It's a bit experimental, this whole concept of we're going to build empathy. And we're not just going to build empathy, we're going to build holistic empathy. We're going to force people to step into the experience of other species. We're the only ones in this space right now that I can find.
Well, I believe in your project because I do truly believe that we all have it in us. I think we're all born empaths, and I just think it's been drilled out of us. So what you're doing on this front as well is amazing, and I 100% support it, and I really wish you the best with it.
Thank you. How wonderful you are. Thank you.
Amazing. So going back to food again, I forgot to ask you this earlier. What is something that you absolutely love to eat, plant-based wise?
Absolutely love to eat. I'm, much like you, a junk food vegan. So I love the pizzas and the burgers and the proteins and fries and anything with loads of flavor.
What did you say? Poutines?
Poutines.
What's that?
Right. You guys don't have those over there.
I've never heard of that.
Right. I forgot you guys don't have poutine. This is, I think, a very Canadian thing. I don't know if it was a dish made, I don't know if we gave birth to it, but it's definitely a Canadian thing. So poutine is fries with gravy and cheese. And so a lot of the poutines here will have, the plant-based meat crumbles. It will have gooey cheese and, maybe cut up tomatoes, onions, a whole bunch of different toppings.
Oh, that sounds like what we have called dirty fries.
Dirty fries. That's
it. Like here it'll be like gooey cheese, it'll be onions, like crispy onions, and usually like bacon.
Yeah.
So that sounds like that.
That's basically it. And some of these can be really fancy schmancy, you've got your jalapenos and olives and stuff too, and others are. So we have a chain here called Odd Burger, It used to be Globally Local, and then they switched their name to Odd Burger, and they have like 3 different flavors of what you would call dirty fries. And so a lot of our local restaurants that are junk food vegan restaurants will have numerous dishes that are the dirty fries, but different toppings of them.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I could eat that
Sounds
stuff
awesome.
all day. I could eat that. So problematic. I wish I was like, I love to eat salad. I keep trying to tell myself I love to. No.
I don't even like salad. I can't get on with it.
No.
The only salad that I've learned to eat, because I've got this weird gag reflex for leaves.
Yeah.
It's the most annoying thing in the world. But the closest thing I like to salad is a bean salad. So it's just like literally mixed beans with like a bit of beetroot, green beans, and with a nice sauce. My friend Sherry introduced me to that. It's the only salad so far that I've succeeded with and actually enjoyed.
Well, good for you. That sounds really yummy.
But it is good.
Good.
Yeah.
I have the same issue as you, where like as a vegetarian you didn't like vegetables. That was also I was also made fun of.
It's so funny how much we've got common. It's like we're twins.
What about yourself? What is your favorite food?
Do you know what? I've been thinking this question for a long time. I don't actually know, really. Like, I definitely like plant-based sausage, because it's just so versatile. You know, you've got toad in the hole, you bang as a mash, like sausage sarnies. Like, I love a plant-based sarnie sausage.
Yum. Me too.
Yeah, I don't know really, because there's so much food that I just love that. Yeah, like that. I just don't know.
I understand the predicament.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
You are hilarious.
So, as our last question,
okay,
before we end,
all right.
For those that are watching that aren't quite vegan yet, what is one piece of advice that you would give them to help them get to the other side?
That's a good question. I would say get started wherever you are. You don't have to be perfect, but it's the small steps that you take in the journey to get to the bigger goal, and take that pressure off of yourself that you can't do it because you can't go completely clean. Every item that you take out from your diet and replace with a plant-based option is a vote for a better world. They're all small votes, and you don't have to be fully vegan to do that until you're comfortable enough to go vegan, because the environment needs this, and ethical companies that are doing their hardest to battle oppression and battle climate change need your support. So please recognize their noble intentions and support them where you can. That would be my advice.
Awesome. So for those,
I'd love to know, Luna, what is your favorite answer you've received to that question thus far?
Oh, now you're asking. I think I know you've just said it, but I do appreciate the people that do say just take it step by step, because I think, I mean, obviously I want everyone to be vegan, but I do appreciate, the fact that it's not an easy journey for everybody. There's so much stuff involved, and I do think that the most powerful, if going cold turkey for you is not something that is attainable for you, I do think just knowing that you can take your time with it, as long as the important thing is the end goal. So yeah, I would probably say, like, for me, like, I appreciate when people say that, because I mean, I know for me that if I was kind of like penalized, for my efforts, like, it wouldn't have helped. It would have made me feel overwhelmed, and like it wasn't enough, like what I was doing wasn't enough.
Yes.
So yeah, I like the whole attitude of, you know, just let yourself go at your own pace, you know, and just do your best, because that's all we can do anyway.
Yes.
So yeah,
I agree.
but we've had lots of good advice.
Good.
Lots and
I'm
lots.
sure. I'm sure.
too many for me to remember. You're like,
Fair enough.
I think number 23. You're the
Incredible.
23rd person I've done, so I don't remember everybody's advice.
How brilliant. How brilliant. You know, can I share something interesting?
Yeah, of course.
Um, when we dug into the science of empathy and what pushes people, so empathy is different than sympathy and compassion. Empathy is stepping into someone else's experience, whereas sympathy is feeling sorry for someone, feeling pity for them, and compassion is actually acting on you know, caring, either acting on pity or acting on empathy. But you don't always have to feel empathy in order to be compassionate. So there's three types of empathies that psychologists have narrowed down. One is empathy that happens in the brain, like it's more logical, where, for example, imagine like a manager speaking to their employee and you know, trying to communicate what their expectations are. They would communicate them in a kind way because they know how they would want to be spoken to. So that's like EQ. Then there's the emotional, like if I was crying over something, you might get teary-eyed because your mirror neurons are like, it's easy for us to get upset. Sometimes we're really into a movie, for example, and somebody's crying, we start crying. Babies, right? Like they hear a baby cry, they start crying. So that's more of an emotional, the way we emotionally take things on. And as vegans, we definitely, I think, feel that we're a little bit more inclined to that emotional. When we see these videos of terror in slaughterhouses, we take that on as an emotional thing for ourselves. And then there's compassionate empathy, which is now when you're propelled to take action and do something about it. But as vegans, we don't have to watch like videos that induce empathy in us every single day in order to be vegan. So we will make that compassionate choice on a regular basis without ever needing to revisit that again and again and again. And some people do. So some, you know, at first when I was really craving milk chocolate, I would just go watch more videos on dairy, and that would help reinforce, because that empathy that made me so uncomfortable would be like, oh, I can't participate in this, right? It's greater now than my need of wanting to eat something that I enjoy. And so what's so interesting in my research, what I found, what isn't so well known, is that it actually takes knowledge to act on empathy. It takes, so we have to know what the problem is. As we know, many people don't know what the problem is with dairy or eggs or even animal production, right? So knowledge is a key piece. Then there is a sense of empowerment and like having courage. And that takes a little bit of a healthy self-esteem. Now, all of us have self-esteem issues, but when we go to the grocery store and we decide that we're going to pick up the plant-based milk instead of the dairy milk, we're saying that well, here we have dollars and over there you guys are dealing with pounds, but my few dollars and your few pounds are significant. We're saying I'm part of a bigger picture and I matter, and my limited purchasing power, as small as it is, matters, versus those people that might think, I don't matter. These are just a few dollars, they don't matter, right? Like everybody's having dairy milk. It's not going to make a difference. And so self-esteem and courage actually play a key role in us acting on empathy. And that's something I think that we need to incorporate. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. So this is the challenge we have before us at Umano in 2022. But what we're trying to really grasp is, how do we infuse our fellow humans with this willingness to sit in discomfort when it comes to empathy? Because it induces anxiety when we try to experience something from someone else's viewpoint. So how do we get them used to sitting in discomfort when our brain just wants to run away from that? And then how do we elicit enough self-esteem and courage, along with the knowledge piece, for people to act on empathy. And this is something we need to bring to, I think, the vegan space a little bit, the vegan activism a little bit more. And amazing work is being done in this area already. And I think one person that does this really well is Earthling Ed. So I wanted to share that bit with you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And that makes a lot of sense though as well, actually, like for me personally on my journey, because before I was vegan, like I had a lot of like anxiety, like depression, mental health issues, like a lot. And while I was living in America, I did a lot of healing, like self-healing, and I gained confidence. I healed a lot of my wounds. And that probably, thinking about it after hearing what you just said, is probably one of the biggest things that has helped me. And whilst being on my vegan journey, it has allowed me to be more confident, because I am not just speaking up for myself, I'm speaking up for other people, other things, and other sentient beings. And I think that's helped me with my own self-esteem, and you know, to get more in touch with empathy. So yeah, it's really interesting, but it just kind of like yeah, it's good to hear that, because as well, like what I do for a living, like I work very closely with teaching emotional intelligence with families specifically. So self-regulation is my answer to your question.
Wow.
We need to teach people how to self-regulate their emotions so that they can be more okay with having these uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
so
would love
thanks for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing that. I would love to discuss self-regulation with you at another point. I know we're running out of time today, but I'd love to have a Luna Zehra chat about this. This is a very interesting area for me. I'd love to hear your experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about that.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
Yeah, same. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And very last thing before we leave, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to personally get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
I am very easily found on social media as Zehra Abbas, and on Instagram, zee.hra. I'm also found at umano, umano.org. Oh, and we have a wonderful film festival running right now. It's called, it's running for this month. We might extend it next month. It's the Umano International Short Film Festival. We collected over 720 short films that induce empathy. And we selected just the top ones for this film festival that's available online for free. So people can just go watch these incredible short films that come from all over the world. Oh, they're fantastic. And I was so blown away by the film entries, and especially some of the student films are remarkable. And so what we're doing is, our purpose for this is to actually elicit 1,000 acts of empathy. We want people to be so moved by these films that they say, yes, I'm going to do something, anything. And it's just a pledge. So you don't have to do it right away. You can take your time doing it. But the 1,000 acts of empathy, we're hoping to reach this goal, because for every act of empathy pledged, we plant a tree with trees.org. In 5 countries in Africa, we plant forest gardens and teach farmers how to sustain, trees.org is really wonderful too, because they're very humans, animals focused minded, and so wonderful. So we're planting a bunch of, so it's like 2 acts of empathy. You get a free
That's
act
amazing.
and get to help these farmers and plant trees. So it's really, really cool. Yeah.
That sounds incredible. Awesome. I'm definitely going to be checking that out and
Please
sharing.
do. Yes, please do. I'll send you the link. It's umano.org. And the festival is found right off of our website, and I'll send you a link as well. I'm a couple of videos, Luna, I'll send you. One is called Ma. You've got to see Ma. It's so good.
Okay.
Another one is called Echo. Another one's called Painting by Number. Oh, they're so good. I'm not even kidding.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to watching them. They sound awesome. Oh, I love it. Love a film festival.
Oh, yes.
Brilliant.
Me too. Especially short films, because it's like in like 3 minutes, you're like, wow, I watched a whole film.
Yeah.
Great use
Brilliant.
of time.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you again, Zehra, for everything. It's been an amazing chat. I've loved learning all the things.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And I love chatting with you. I love meeting fellow vegans. So this was tons of fun for me. And I can't wait to watch some of your other interviews and see that answer that I'm so intrigued by as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you guys for watching. If you are a fellow vegan and would like to be our next star vegan, please do get in touch. You can find me on Facebook, Luna Bloomer, or email me at veganbloomers@gmail.com. If you're not a vegan or you are a vegan and you're looking for some more support on vegan, the vegan lifestyle, please do come and join our group, Vegan Bloomers. And if you have enjoyed watching, please make sure that you like and subscribe, and we shall see you next time. Much love.